Simon Bridges has called the bluff of his potential challengers, summoning National Party MPs to Parliament for a vote on the leadership midday Friday. It's still not clear where the votes would fall if there is a direct challenge, with one well-placed MP, a Bridges supporter, telling RNZ it was a line call. The numbers have been being done to see if there was enough support for an alternative ticket of Todd, Muller and Nikki, but they've gone to ground today and are yet to make any public comment about whether they will front and challenge Mr Bridges on Friday. But an email has just gone out from Todd Muller to MPs signalling their intent to do just that. The phones have been running hot since a disastrous poll this week, putting the opposition party at just 30%. During his morning media round, Mr Bridges said there would be a vote to settle the matter once and for all. Here's our political editor, Jane Patterson.
The pressure has been on Mr Bridges for some months, and that ratcheted up after the poll on Monday. This morning, he threw down the gauntlet.
A couple of my colleagues want to challenge myself and Paul Bennett for the leadership and deputy leadership of the National Party. We've got to resolve that quickly so we can get back to focusing on what matters.
He's confident he'd have the numbers to see off any challenge.
And Paula and I will win. But look, we're putting it to the test to resolve it quickly.
Bay of Plenty MP Todd Muller and Auckland Central's Nikki Kaye have been testing the water, but when asked, Mr Bridges declined to name them publicly, calling the vote as a bold move and one that carries risk, but it will flush out his would-be opponents, putting the pressure on them to show they have majority support or leave him to contest the election. Senior MP and former leadership contender Judith Collins says she won't be mounting a challenge.
No, I've got no intention of being involved in it, in any of that at the moment. Well, actually no intention at all.
She's urging the caucus to resolve the leadership ructions quickly, but wouldn't comment on whether Simon Bridges and his deputy would survive a vote.
Look, it's entirely up to the caucus. I'm not doing numbers for myself or anyone else, and I'm not interested. I do know that what happens in political parties in an election year is that disunity is terrible in terms of the people and the polls, and it's something that whatever people need to do, they need to sort it out as fast as possible.
Mark Mitchell, who also ran for leader in 2018, is ruling himself out of any challenge.
From day one, I pledged my support and loyalty to Simon. He retains that as leader. Obviously, there's been some caucus colleagues that have been active. We'll be going into caucus next Tuesday, and whatever happens in caucus, we will emerge as a united team.
The popularity of Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern and the extensive coverage she's had during the lockdown have been a major contributor to Mr Bridges' woes, but she had little to say about the manoeuvrings happening at pace across the aisle.
As I've said many times before, my focus has always been on running the government, and at this time, more than any other time, my focus is squarely on what we need to be doing on behalf of New Zealanders. So I'm not going to change my practice of not engaging in the politics of the opposition.
The Friday vote will put the current ructions to bed, and Simon Bridges says he expects that will be the end of it. National is trading on the political focus swinging strongly to the economy, with the true damage of the lockdown yet to be revealed. And once it does, that voters will look to National as the party to most competently lead the recovery. The problem remains for Mr Bridges, however. Will the voters want to hear what he has to say, and will that be reflected in upcoming polls between now and the election? From Parliament for Checkpoint, Jane Patterson.
And Simon Bridges, Paula Bennett, Todd Muller and Nikki Kaye were all unavailable for interviews. As you heard a short time ago, Todd Muller has sent an email to his caucus colleagues signalling an intent to challenge the leadership ticket of Simon Bridges and Paula Bennett. Jane Patterson joins us now with the details. What's the latest, Jane?
So this email has gone out literally in about the last half an hour after Todd Muller and his deputy on that ticket, Nikki Kaye, really have gone to ground all day since that interview with Simon Bridges this morning, where he confirmed that the vote would be held. Now, in the email, Todd Muller says that he has notified Simon Bridges and the party president Goodfellow of his intention to hold a ballot as soon as possible, and at this stage that looks like it will be midday Friday, with Simon Bridges summoning all MPs to Parliament to hold that vote and get it over and done with as soon as possible. Now, in his email, Todd Muller says that the economy is heading for some incredibly tough times as a result of the lockdown and the continued restrictions, and he said it would be doubly catastrophic if that were to be managed under the Labour government that has so far failed to deliver. Now, the he refers to a challenge, saying that he and the majority of National MPs do not believe that National can win this election under Simon Bridges, and that is why he has put his name forward.
It's interesting, isn't it, the strategic move by Simon Bridges basically to call the bluff and go first. And the other side of that is whether the challengers are ready to go.
That's right, Lisa, and it's not clear yet where those numbers lie. We've had someone from the Bridges team tell us that it's going to be, quote, a line call. Simon Bridges there this morning, and as you would expect, saying that he has the numbers, he's confident that Paula Bennett and himself can see off any challenge. But we're also hearing from the Muller camp, at least through this email, that they have not specifically support, but there is a rump of MPs who don't believe that Simon Bridges can do the business this election. But look, it was a really risky move and a bold move on behalf of Mr Bridges this morning, basically to call their bluff, and what it did, it forced that challenge out into the open. The numbers have been being done, the phone calls have been happening, but there hadn't been that formal statement yet, and this is what Simon Bridges' comments today forced out, and it also puts the pressure on individual MPs who might have been vacillating between keeping Mr Bridges on or forcing a change. It puts the pressure on them to actually say where their vote is going to be. Now, not much time at all. This is happening very rapidly. They only have basically a day and a half, not only to get to Wellington, but also to decide which side of the camp that they are going to go to.
Thanks, Jane. That's Jane Patterson joining us live from Parliament.